Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Star Wars Rebels episode review. This one is going to be for Season 3, Episode 14, Warhead. I'm not doing this one on camera just because at the time I watched the episode it's pretty late, lighting would be terrible in the video, so I'm just going to do this one audio only. But I don't have a ton to say, so it'll be a relatively short video this time out. Overall with this episode, I thought it was a fun one-off episode, but it kind of does represent a lot of kind of what this show is when it's not directly referring to the main kind of arc of the season, this time around being most of the stuff related to Maul and Thrawn. Even though there was a little bit with Thrawn at the end, it was still kind of more just like, okay, smallest possible addition to kind of plot stuff going forward, but still somewhat interesting. I think this one accomplished a lot more than a good amount of the episodes that we've gotten at these kind of middle sections between the really big episodes often accomplish. So I will definitely give this episode credit for that, in that, okay, they gave Zeb an episode that wasn't directly going to like develop his character, but just where he could be the kind of action focus. You know, you give AP5 some attention as well, Chopper, and just kind of have a more kind of droid focused episode that in the end linked into a more important plot, that being Thrawn gradually trying to figure out where the rebels are. And even though it initially comes across that the rebels just succeeded in this, ultimately they, in the bigger picture, narrow down where they could be. It doesn't give away their exact location, but it gives away the options, in that like it's related to this whole line of infiltrator droids, and even if they don't know which specific one it was, they know it was one of the places where they went to. So I did like that little bit at the end. I was kind of worried about the episode up until that point, and then just making that connection, kind of having Callus, Fulcrum, be somewhat of an aspect of the episode, I did think made it interesting, in that you're always wondering, I think now with Callus, given that kind of Thrawn is sort of suspicious of him, will this be the episode when his cover is blown and like we have to see his escape? We're still waiting for that to happen, and obviously this was just a kind of smaller kind of thing, in that like Callus just informed them like there's a low chance of this happening, but these droids are being sent out. If you happen to encounter one, be aware that this is what they are. And it just so happened that did happen. So that was, pretty interesting enough. But overall, I think talking about specifics about the episode, outside of the Thrawn thing at the end, it didn't accomplish a ton. Like the new droid design for this infiltrator thing, the fact that it could transform from a kind of basic protocol-esque droid into a kind of larger, more combat-focused droid was interesting. I like the design of the kind of basic version. What it turned into when it got bigger, I didn't find all that interesting. The weaponry and kind of gadgets that it tended to use didn't really appeal to me. So I don't think it was one of the best designs we've seen in the show. But I think the idea of them, that just the Empire sends these out as like they're kind of lost droids, and they're kind of undercover, they're kind of investigating, and that they seem to be very, very powerful logistic droids, just in terms of the kind of processing power. They can instantly analyze what's going on, and if they see anything that is like inherently rebel, or they get people talking about rebels, rebellion, it activates and will kind of do stuff. It can defend itself, but the prime goal of it is just to alert the Empire that this is where it is. I like that as a concept. I suppose I have a feeling like we may not really see these things anymore. It was like it really felt like one of the most one-off kind of character model designs that we've had ever for a droid here. And then like I suppose the core with Zeb of just like he's placed in charge of the base while everyone else goes off on a mission, and he kind of has to prove himself because he gets no respect from the other droids, was interesting enough. Just seeing to get him fight his more kind of physically focused fight style was interesting. That he did take a bit of a beating here, and in that sense the fight scene was kind of quite interesting, though it highlights, I suppose, how good of a warrior that he is, that he can be the kind of soldier, run around blaster in hand, defend himself, but he's also incredibly strong in that he's able to go up because of his species and how good of a, I suppose, physical specimen he is. He's able to actually fight on par with a powerful droid in terms of strength, which isn't usually the thing with kind of like organics going up against mechanical things. So I did like that in terms of the fight scenes, just that in the end, like, Zeb was super struggling, but he was kind of holding the droid down in that kind of chokehold type thing, submission hold on the ground. As AP5 turned it off, I did like that. And then, like, you know, they tried to have a little thing of just like Zeb and AP5 kind of coming together, and that like AP5 thinks that Zeb is just a grunt, he never comes up with ideas, but then Zeb's actual idea, once they kind of neutralized the droid, was actually really good, even if even AP5 couldn't see the greater picture of them messing at all with these droids or coming into contact with it. Was, regardless of what happened, it was going to limit down Thrawn's search field and in terms of where it happens, because the droid was going to report something back, something notable happening with any of the droids would have caused Thrawn to somewhat investigate that planet, and it's just this kind of unlucky situation that they couldn't really predict. But to stop the direct planet of location that they're on, it was a pretty good plan. Just the idea that they use the fact that it turns into a bomb. They can't reprogram its memories to completely stop everything, so they just reprogram the bomb to go off once it goes back, and they end up basically taking out a Star Destroyer or one of the other kind of Empire ships. It was kind of lucky that Kallus didn't happen to be on the ship that had the droids. That was quite interesting, just the fact that was the case, that there happened to just be a couple of ships around that Kallus and Thrawn were on, and it just so happened that the droids were dealt with on the other ship and not the one that Kallus was on. But I think one of the most fun aspects of the episode was definitely when kind of Kallus sees what happens and clearly knows that the rebels did this. Just the smile on his face, where he was just like, wow, that was actually really impressive what they did. Like, I know I warned them about it, but wow, the fact that they managed to get it back here, explode, take out the Star Destroyer, and all of the recon droids that come back, like, that was deeply impressive. I did like that moment, and the fact that he said that to them at the end over the comms to kind of as Fulcrum was interesting. But yeah, definitely at the end, the most, I think, ultimately the biggest takeaway scene from the episode is the Thrawn and Kallus scene, as you do see like Kallus being a little bit like overly like complimentary of the rebels, that like, oh, they kind of outsmarted you there, Thrawn, but then Thrawn instantly turns it around and is just like, no, I'm still looking at this bigger picture, and I've ultimately gained success from this, even though the rebels will think that they've won. This is information that we have that they will never know that we have. Now, it's still only a small section of the way to actually finding them, but it's still the fact that he's limited it down to like the 96 systems, I think he said it could be, planets, is interesting. Like, what's the next step going to be in terms of like sending stuff out to get the rebel base? In that, I feel like this could become a somewhat interesting minor but like continuous plot over the episodes, in that this doesn't have to be something where it's just like the tracking down arc where we focus like the next 5 episodes on how Thrawn comes to figure out the base. You can have maybe those one-off episodes like we've had in previous seasons, but you can have like little events, like little moments, gradually have Thrawn zone in on where they are, leading to, I suppose, maybe an attack on the rebel base in the finale or something like that. I would actually like that. That would be an interesting thing to do. Like, maybe he doesn't send droids the next time round, but like, he purposefully like plants the fact that like, oh, near like these 3 or 4 systems in at the side, we'll send in some like Imperial supply vessels, which supplies that they'll have to go for because they're so valuable. And if anything happens to them, we know that the rebels are somewhere near that system. I can see him doing something like that to be like, okay, we've narrowed it down from like 90 systems to maybe 10, and then he just has like one last thing that he does to figure out what the exact planet that they're on is. So I think that could be interesting, how he goes the next step forward, because obviously we know from the trailer that Thrawn is getting a few more action moments coming up. So I can see them still building up the whole idea that he takes a bigger picture look at things and is more of a strategic planner, thinker, rather than instantly reacting. I can still see them building that up for a few more episodes, but I think they're just about ready to commit to doing something big with Thrawn, where he gets a big victory for the Empire and really takes the rebels by surprise. But yeah, other than that, I don't think there's a whole lot else to say about the episode. I definitely enjoyed this one a lot more than most of the other kind of mid-season type episodes that aren't really focused on the main plot. Coming up next, I think, should be some of the more interesting stuff, in that I don't think they're directly airing it as a two-parter, but the two episodes seem linked in terms of the kind of plot focus, in that the next one is called Trials of the Darksaber, and obviously Sabine has the Darksaber, so she's obviously going to learn how to use that. And then the one after that relates to Mandalore, so I assume this is potentially going to be addressing Sabine and her mother, given that I think we see her mother in the trailer. So if this is those two episodes, I think these could be the big two with Sabine, in that we've had Sabine episodes where they've kind of tried but failed to ultimately do something notable with her character. I think we're just about at the point where like they kind of have to deliver now, otherwise when will it happen? So I'm hopeful for at least one of the next two episodes being the big Sabine episode, where we finally get to the point where I think she needs to be at as a character. This Darksaber, if that's what you need to do to get her to that point, that's fine. It's just I think it's quite telling that you kind of needed the Darksaber, and you need to go full on, make her the next kind of Pre Vizsla, but on the good side, to really make her interesting. That they had all these little aspects that they couldn't quite get together until they gave her a lightsaber. It's a little bit kind of disappointing, but I'm excited. Like, if, as we see for the trailer, Kanan is the one training her in lightsaber combat, I suppose this is just me living in hope, but I would really like it if they just at some point acknowledged the lightsaber forms within the show. That he was like, okay, Sabine, based on your fighting styles and what I've seen of you in battle, I think like form 3 Ataru would be like suited to you. I'm not trying to analyze Sabine and what form would ultimately suit her, but something like that like, oh, you need this would be the perfect style for you. Sarizu for a more defensive style, or something like that. I would like to see at least a mention of that come into play, if indeed Sabine learning to use a lightsaber is a key aspect, because we haven't really seen Sabine use melee weaponry, so this could be an interesting one, and especially if like Ezra potentially helps to train her as well, we could get some interesting interactions between all of these characters. So yeah, I'm just going to end the video there. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on this episode and where you think the series is going from this point out. But yeah, I'm just going to end by saying link to my Twitter, Tumblr, Patreon campaign, and PayPal donation link are in the description below. But yeah, that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.